Welcome to This Is Your Life Again, Chapter 4, Summer Sun. There are some things in life that stay with you forever. Not because they were photographed, not because they were recorded, but because they happened at exactly the right moment. On the surface, it's a simple song about sunlight, growing up and feeling alive. Beneath those lyrics sits an entire world. A world of free parties and sound systems, open skies, sunrises, sunsets, horizons. A world where thousands of people gathered in fields, quarries, warehouses, because somebody knew where the music was. One particular night has never left me, and that was a night in September 1992. And I think it's from that the song found its form. And it's only that I recorded the late 90s and then to where we are today. But to understand the song, you have to understand the feeling. And that feeling was the free party movement of the late 80s and early 90s, which was unlike anything I've ever experienced before or since. There were no tickets, no social media, no event pages. Most of the time there wasn't even a confirmed venue until the actual night itself. Information travelled through flyers and phone numbers and answering machines and phone boxes, I seem to recall. Somebody knew somebody who knew where things were happening, and somehow that message just spread. And remarkably it worked. Hundreds, sometimes thousands of people would find their way to a field, a warehouse, a quarry, a cliff top. And they would create a temporary world there that existed outside of ordinary life, just for the night, sometimes the weekend, sometimes it went on longer. And what I remember most wasn't the scale of these nights, it was just the feeling that you got from them. There was a trust throughout the scene. People looked after each other, people looked out for each other. Sometimes a collection bucket came around to help cover costs and you instinctively put something into it, knowing that that would find its way to the right channel. You never questioned that, you never questioned the morals of that. It just happened, and that was trust. If there was rubbish in the morning to clear up, people picked up and cleared up. Not every time, it wasn't perfect, nothing ever is, but you just took what you brought. You returned the land to the land. You respected where you'd been that night and what it had given you. But there's a genuine sense that everybody was there for the same reason. The music itself wasn't one thing. There was the house, the techno, the trance, the breakbeat, the psychedelic rock, everything in between. Crews such as Circus Walk, Spiral Tribe, Bedlam, DIY all brought their own energy to the movement. And alongside these guys were bands like the Ozric Tentacles and the Levellers and the Moonflowers from the Bristol side of things. I remember arriving at a festival in Wiltshire, finding my van parked between the Ozric Tentacles bus and the Levellers. And looking back, that felt like a perfect snapshot of that time. It couldn't have been more perfect, it couldn't have been anywhere else. With different sounds, different audiences, yet all somehow connected by the same spirit of independence and freedom that we were seeking and finding through these gatherings. Looking back now, what connected all of it wasn't a single genre. It was belonging. Part of the magic was simply getting there to these places. Cars would gather at meeting points around Bristol, Bath, Somerset and beyond, waiting for the latest information. I relate to the West Country and that scene, but obviously this was happening across the breadth of the land, and everyone had their own networks, their own ways of sourcing and identifying what was happening and when. Suddenly a message would arrive, within minutes an entire convoy would disappear into the darkness, heading towards somewhere that most people half an hour before had never heard of. The journey became part of that experience. Those drives remain some of my strongest memories of those days. Lines of headlights winding through country lanes, friends piled into vans and cars. The excitement of not knowing exactly what lay ahead, I think, was part of the pull. But as the years went on, you could feel things changing slightly. The scene became much more visible, more attention was paid to it, and more pressure was being applied to stop this from happening. And towards the end, it wasn't unusual for convoys heading to these parties. I remember a few down at Camelford, where we were escorted from county to county, gatherings prevented in one place, only for hundreds of people to then be moved on and continue searching elsewhere. And that was the case for Castle Morton, where a convoy heading to a particular party was diverted and ended up at Castle Morton, and which became one of the biggest free parties in living memory, which is, I'm pretty sure, not what the police at that point wanted. But the free party scene didn't disappear overnight. It gradually dispersed. Some people moved into clubs and licensed events, and some remained within the festival world. Some drifted away as careers and families and responsibilities took over, and that's the natural course of life. But those convoys remain part of the story, because every line of headlights carried people towards music, friendship, and towards possibility. One thing that strikes me when I look back now is how differently we all experience those moments. We didn't spend the night documenting everything. Most of what happened only exists in our memory, and that's perhaps why they remain so vivid, because there's nothing in the way of them. No filter. It's just as it was, as we saw it, as we took it in. When the sun came up, people weren't watching it through a screen, through a rectangle of light with a blinking red dot in the corner. They were just simply watching it. Standing beside friends, old and new, sharing a moment that belonged entirely to those who were there. Some experiences become part of you precisely because you never tried to capture them. And of all of the nights I could talk about, and there were plenty, one night stands above the rest. Cheddar Gorge, September 1992, Circus Warp. If I could revisit one night from that entire period, that would be it. We arrived through the usual chain of rumours and directions and found ourselves high above the Somerset levels in one of the most dramatic landscapes imaginable. So this is where we would have been. There was cars all the way down here. There would have been cars all the way up there as far as you could see. And we walked up there after the pubs, hundreds of people making their way to a party they'd heard was happening on the top of the hills. The names were always linked to these parties. There was DIYs, the spirals, the circus walks. They were synonymous with the free party scene and everything it stood for. And this is where it happened. I have no idea to this day how the vehicles responsible for the party would have made it up here. We'd have arrived here as the music was playing high above the town of Cheddar. This does look familiar now. Retracing the steps of the free party scene 35 years ago, 1992. Oh, shows how unfit I am. Probably so much fitter back in the day from dancing all night. But I remember being here. I feel that this was where we were. This is the space that held us. And this would have been the track. This could have been this muddy puddle and the track that appeared in the picture. This could have been the ridge behind it. There was tents and marquees and hundreds of people dancing. But this feels like the place that held 1,000 hearts and 1,000 memories. It could be the very place that held the people on the night. These are the views the morning brought. But that's where we danced. It's where memories were made. I think I've returned 35 years later. Returned to the source. Just a beautiful place to have held a party. I think the pictures that I've seen so far indicated that the actual ground was particularly muddy on one night, but the night itself was clear, bright, cold in the morning, the early hours, and we got to see the sunrise. and we dance under the stars. What better place could we have done that? Flat Rock, Cheddar, 1992, September. One of the greatest nights this area has ever seen. Listen to the sounds. I remember that night, many years ago, where this was just a trail of people sneaking up to the party, dancing through the night, loving every minute of the night, willing it not to end, and then as the sun came up, holding it for as long as possible until the music stopped and we knew that was our moment to go. So it's amazing. It's 35 years later, you return. Thank you for that night so many moons ago, forever etched in my heart and many others. Music echoing across the limestone cliffs, the sky stretching endlessly overhead, and all night long people danced. Time disappeared the way it always did at those parties. Hours became irrelevant. And one memory from that party confirms that the Moonflowers were there. The band has sent me a picture of the setup and the scene. They were one of Bristol's defining underground bands of the period, existing somewhere between psychedelic rock, the festival culture and the emerging rave scene. An eyewitness account from the gathering recalls finding them in a corner of the field, playing as dawn approached, lost in their music, simply enjoying the moment for what it was. And that always felt like the perfect embodiment of the scene itself. The music was the point, the moment was the point, and everything else was secondary. And then dawn began to arrive and the horizon softens. The black sky turns a deep blue, and then a lighter blue, and then a gold creeps in. Anyone who experienced a free party sunrise will understand exactly what I mean there. It wasn't just another morning, it felt like a reward, like the world itself was revealing something. And as the light spreads across the landscape, the music changes, the energy softens, and the rhythm became slower, gentler. And that night, Salt Tank, charged up, came through the speakers. I'd heard the track before. John Peel had championed this sometime earlier that year, maybe the year previously, I can't remember. But if John Peel told you something was incoming and destined to make you sit up and take notice, you didn't question that. But hearing it there on top of Cheddar Gorge as dawn broke across the Somerset levels, it transformed it completely into something inseparable from that morning. And even now when I hear it, I'm transported back to the cliff top, back to the dawn, back to those people that we were there with. And while Charged Up will always be part of that morning for me, another track of theirs became equally important to me in the years that followed, and to this day, Sargasso Sea and the variations of that song. Whilst Charged Up drove forwards, Sargasso Sea seems to float, almost weightless, suspended somewhere between movement and stillness. And over the years it became one of those pieces of music that never seems to age. A track I've returned to at different chapters of my own life, and always finding something new within it with every listen, and that's the beauty of music. It doesn't always remind me of a moment, it just grows alongside those memories, holds them in sync. So I'd like to take a moment simply to say thank you. Thank you to David Gates and Malcolm Stans for creating music that has travelled with so many of us for so many years. And thank you for our recent conversations and for kindly allowing me to use parts of your music within this podcast, because it was so special to me back then, and I also know the weight that that music carries, and I wanted to share that here because that holds my story and many other stories together. So thank you to you guys for that, and to Andrew Rose, who later joined Salt Tank for the live performances. Rest in peace. Some music entertains us for a while, and other music becomes woven into the fabric of our very lives. Salt Tank belongs firmly in that second category for me. I remember faces around me that morning. Friends, people I travel with, people I've known for years, people I've met only hours earlier. Arms around shoulders, smiles that needed no explanation. The shared understanding that we'd all experienced something together. Something special. Some of those people are no longer here, but in my mind they remain exactly where they were that morning. And standing in the first light of day with the music drifting through the air, we remember them. We remember the times that we had with them. And to me, that's what my song Summer Sun is really all about. Not specific to free parties, not specifically Cheddar Gorge, but those moments, those feelings created in what I'd experienced. Standing in a field with the sound carrying me to places that I felt completely at ease within. A journey from uncertainty to understanding, from feeling lost to feeling found. Nothing external changed, the world remained the same, but something inside shifted. And that's what those nights often gave me. Not answers, just perspective. And sometimes for me that was enough. The free party scene eventually faded. The fields became harder to find, the gatherings became harder to hold, but the music didn't stop, the people didn't disappear, and neither did the desire to dance. And what emerged through the 90s was something different. Large outdoor events, legal events, organised events. More expensive certainly, but they were still carrying traces of the spirit that had brought everybody together in the first place. For many of us, events such as Fantasia, Helter Skelter, Dreamscape, Universe, countless other outdoor dance events and gatherings became the next step in our journey. They weren't free parties, they weren't trying to be, but they gave us somewhere to go, and they gave us somewhere to dance, somewhere to reconnect with friends we'd met years earlier in those fields and the quarries and the hilltops. And many of the artists who had helped shape those earlier years came with us to these events, or we came with them to the events. People like Fabio, Slipmat, Easy Groove, The Rat Pack, LTJ Bookham, Ratty, Top Buzz, Mickey Finn, Carl Cox all became familiar names from the decade, the MCs that kept the crowds hyped for 12 hours at a time, MC Joke, MC Scallywag, MC Techno. They were all part of that scene that made it bigger. The audience was bigger, the stages were bigger, the sound systems were bigger. But underneath it all was the same connection through music. The same excitement when you met old friends and realised that somehow everyone had found their way there again. And even into the early 2000s, I was still chasing that feeling and standing in huge marquees events such as Global Gathering, surrounded by thousands of people watching the evolution of a culture that had begun in much smaller places. The scale had changed, but the heart of the nights hadn't changed. And what amazes me most is how many of those people are still doing what they love today. Easy Groove, who played at Circus Walk Gathering in Cheddar 1992, is still performing today. I spoke to him and Scotty, his back-to-back deck partner, last month, and they were preparing to play Resurgence in Cornwall, 30th of May. Flyer there, and thanks for the picture, guys. They were performing with a DJ producer on the same bill, another artist we had the pleasure of partying with over the years, from Fantasias, Dreamscapes, but right the way back to the free party scene, and then later moved into the Bristol area, the St Paul's Carnival. And we stumbled upon producer set in the early hours of the morning. And that was what those nights were like. They were just random moments you found, by accident half the time. But where it all really began for so many was the legendary free party scene, the sound system scene. fields, quarries, abandoned warehouses, and some of those include the biggest free festival ever seen, Castlemont Common. An estimated 30,000 people descending on a common in Worcester for a week-long festival that changed UK laws forever. And that was as a result of the police moving from county to county to county, and where they landed was a common in Worcestershire. But these guys, along with many others, are still living and breathing the magic of music today. They're still performing, they're still creating, they're still believing. Because music has a remarkable ability to connect people across time. It outlives fashions, it outlives scenes, it outlives entire eras. And for those of us lucky enough to have grown up within that generation, it became something much more than just entertainment. It became a lifelong companion. And perhaps that's why these memories remain so vivid, not because they were recorded, because they were lived completely. The fields may be gone, the sound systems may have moved on, the free party era may belong to history. But the friendships remain, the music remains, and the memories remain. And somewhere on a cliff top above Cheddar Gorge, in the first light of a September morning in 1992, a younger version of myself is probably still dancing. And I go back to the reasons that I'm putting these episodes together is as a life box for myself, my children, but I want them to know a little bit about my life as they get older. Maybe one day they'll find this series here on YouTube. I want them to know that feeling too. And I know party scenes will change, and every generation has its own unique moments, its own unique, special place that they'll find. Do it safely, do it with enjoyment, do it for every right reason. Experience, feel, and love it. But thanks again to everybody here who's contributed from the music side of things as well. From the Moonflowers for Jess for the images and confirmations of certain nights. Thank you to Easy Groove for catching up with you recently, and thank you to Salt Tank for being an integral part of my musical life, for allowing me to use tracks here, and the music will remain in my heart forever. And that is where I came from. That is why in my own head I wrote a dancey, happy, sunshine-filled song, which over the years became a tape left in a box, going nowhere. And to dig it out as part of this series, and I'll play some of that here for you to have a listen to see where it came from. And then I will play out with what it became as part of this musical journey, bringing different parts of technologies to help me lift tracks out of the dark boxes that are behind me here. The passion and the feeling and the heart of my original song remains into the new, and that's the important part. I didn't want to create songs that were very different from where they started. They have to retain the heart and the grounding that they had when I scribbled notes down on these bits of paper years and years ago, and turn them into something, give them a life of their own, give them a longevity, and something, again, for, I hope, your enjoyment. And it's been a journey. So the Summer Sun 2026. Thank you for being part of my journey, as always. Thank you for taking the time to even listen, comment, and feedback on some of this. It's a personal journey. I've invited some of you guys into it because I wanted you to share that journey you were part of with me. So thanks for taking the time to listen. And I look forward to something different again in chapter 5. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I'm enjoying this trip down memory lane, finding material that existed only on dusty old C90 cassettes, turning it into something new and putting this together. This is your life again. Thank you for being part of it. The Summer Sun.
Within the summer sun I feel alive, underneath the evening gold. And now I feel just fine, as I wonder what the days will hold. Tell me, is this all surreal, or have I lost my way? Do I understand emotions that I feel today? And there's no one left to help me out here on my own. No longer childlike, now I stand alone. Within the summer sun I feel alive, underneath the blissful evening gold. And now I feel just fine, knowing what the days will hold. Tell me, is this all surreal, or have I found my way? Do I understand emotions that I feel today? And there's no one left to turn to, I'm out here on my own. No longer childlike, no longer feel alone. Tell me, is this all surreal, or have I found my way? Do I understand emotions that I feel today? And there's no one left to turn to when I'm on my own. No longer childlike, no longer feel alone. Under the summer sun I feel alive, beneath the blissful evening gold. It's here I feel just fine.